Welcome back to the Alchemist Babe podcast. I am your host, Dakota, and today we're talking about alchemy because I know the name of this podcast is The Alchemist Babe, and I think a lot of the times when we're thinking about alchemy, we think it's like some sort of magic or woohoo, very spiritual, and that's not necessarily the case. Now, before I dive in, I know my background is different. As I said in the last episode, I have two under two now, and life is crazy sometimes and busy and hectic. And both of my kids are officially sleeping right now. So I'm just going to record a quick little episode talking about this while I have the time. So these episodes might pop up in my car, they might be in my bedroom, they might be in my office, they might be, on the couch, just wherever I can make work. Because at the end of the day, that is truly what this is about. And the Alchemist Babe is not about being somebody perfect. It's about being somebody that has the knowledge to transform your life and doing the things when you can. Now, alchemy is not just some magical word. It's not woohoo. It's something that a lot of us, all of us are doing every single day, especially if you're a mom, especially if you're a woman, especially if you've been somebody that has changed your identity or went through something expansive, you have that's alchemy. It's turning pressure into power. It's turning chaos into calm. It is turning pain into wisdom. It is going through those growths and having that transformation in your life. Old alchemy talks about, turning metals into gold, or everything that you touch turns into gold, something of wealthy. But what this is truly referring to is taking something of heavy and making it light. Taking something like pain, that is an emotion that's really heavy. It weighs on you. It can truly affect you. Depression, sadness, taking these heavier emotions and things and turning them into something lighter, like happiness, like wisdom, like strength, turning the chaos, the confusion, the heaviness of all of that and finding clarity within it, going through that transformation of one emotion to the next emotion. Taking your old identity, that heaviness that weighs you down, somebody that you're not, somebody that has a lot of blockages, that has the ceilings that you've placed for yourself that you're trying to break through, that taking that old identity and freeing yourself to become the new identity, taking a heavier version of you and becoming lighter. And the real alchemy is what happens internally before you can necessarily see everything externally. All of the changes that happen in our lives usually happen internally because we have to have a certain frequency. We have to tune into that radio station internally before our external will ever change. You can make the same mistake over and over and over and over again because you haven't internally shifted. I once heard this description of manifestation is shifting to agree internally, you are no longer emotionally dependable on the external to shift. That is manifestation. Because the moment you have detached internally, you're no longer emotionally attached to something, that is when your external shifts. It always happens with inward. Life is coming from you. It is not coming at you. Everything that you're experiencing in your life has come from you, that you have been created. You are creating every single day. Every time you're outgrowing a version of yourself, you are going through alchemy. When you are pregnant, when you find out that you're going to be a mom and you're starting a family, you're going through alchemy because you have to let go of who you once were and you have to shift so much internally. Your organs need to shift physically, a lot of stuff is shifting, but also spiritually, mentally, emotionally. You're going through all of these shifts in order to become and birth the mother version of you. Like, yes, you give birth to a kid. I was saying this last episode, you give birth to a kid, but you're giving birth to a new version of yourself. That is alchemy, is that creating process of taking all this, the pain, the pressure, the sadness, the emotions, everything, and who you were, the identity that you once have. You'll never have that identity anymore ever again. You're shifting, you're going through alchemy, you're an alchemist to become the mom version of you. If you are somebody that has a business and maybe you were very much in the hustle culture, it was like such a phase a few years ago of like hustling was a thing. And if you're not hustling, you're not doing enough. And it was so toxic for a lot of people, including myself. Like I went into that mentality and it wrecked my mentality a little bit because you had such guilt if you weren't doing something, because if you're not hustling, what are you even doing? You're not even making money. You're not doing anything. And so we end up tying our worth. I end up tying my worth to my production, what I'm producing, what am I doing? How fast am I going? And it just leads to a lot of burnout unless you're somebody that can truly maintain all of that, which honestly I couldn't. And a lot of people can't. So going from that hustle culture version of you to a more softer receiving version of you is alchemy, going through the internal blockages and breaking them down and stepping over them and climbing the mountains and shifting your entire mindset to rewire it to be like, hustling isn't always okay. I don't have to hustle. I don't need to be stressed. My money isn't tied to how much work I produce. Money comes to me easily and effortlessly. Money comes to me abundantly. Money comes to me for so many different sources in every single different way. And it's not tied to how much I'm physically doing. And this identity shift, this old version of you that is shifting into the new version of you, can feel like death. Like you feel like you're killing off a version of yourself. One of the strongest ways I have felt this is when I gave birth to my daughter. For those of you who don't know, I gave birth in the car on the way to the hospital. And it was quite a traumatic experience, but I felt a version of me die. Like in that moment I gave birth, which I didn't really feel it as much with my firstborn. Mind you, I did have an epidural and it was in a hospital. It was a lot more safe. This one wasn't. And so there was a part of me that truly I felt die off when I gave birth to her in that traumatic experience. And I became somebody new. And your alchemy, your changing into the new version of you, can often feel like that. It can feel like you're killing something off. It can be really fucking uncomfortable. It can be really messy at times and confusing because you're going through that period. And sometimes it's hard to have the full trust. Like when you're moving, for example, and the house that you're currently in is all boxed up. You have boxes everywhere. Your kitchen's destroyed, your bedroom's destroyed, everything because it's in boxes. But you don't necessarily panic. You're not freaking out because you know it's a temporary state, because once you get the box to the new house, you can unpack and it's a new chapter for you. And we know that when we're moving houses, we can understand that. But when it comes down to moving from one version of ourselves to the new version of ourselves, we don't give ourselves the same trust that new version's coming and it's going to be better. The same way that we would if we're moving houses, knowing that the new house is better, the new house is bigger, the new house has more windows, has a fancier kitchen, has a nicer living room, it has a bigger backyard, all of these things. We just trust that. But when we're going through that spiritually and emotionally and in our own bodies, we don't have that same level of trust, but we need to. We are alchemists. We are alchemists of our own lives, and we're creating it every single day. Everything that you do is creating your life. You are in charge of your life. You have that power. Once you went through that messy stage, the confusion stage, the uncomfortable stage, the growing stage, all of the messiness of becoming that new version of yourself, the feeling lost and feeling like you're killing off who you were, then comes clarity, then comes peace, comes understanding, comes calmness, comes excitement, love, happiness. And you see things more clearly, more simply. You can kind of look back and recognize the patterns that were holding you back. You also have the ability to question those patterns and kind of analyze them a little bit more so you don't end up in the same patterns, which a lot of the time, once you can bring awareness to those patterns, is 9 times out of 10 when they break, because all they needed was for you to actually recognize them. Because a lot of the patterns and the habits that we have, we're doing them so subconsciously we don't even realize that they're a habit of ours. And once we bring them into the light, there's like our shadow selves. Once we bring our shadow selves into the light and bring light to it, it no longer is a shadow. It doesn't need to be. It's not as bad anymore. And so kind of the same things happen with a lot of the patterns that you have. Once you can bring awareness to them, that's when the shift really is happening. And then you begin to integrate all of these new lessons that you've learned. You move differently, you act differently, you talk differently, you have different values, you hold yourself at a higher standard. You have fully embodied the new identity, and you are embodying the new identity. So it almost comes in like 3 stages of alchemy. Is, that first stage where the shift has started and it's crazy, it's messy, it's chaotic, all of this. And then that second stage where the clarity begins to happen, the questions start to be asked, you can see the patterns, you see the shifts that need to be made. And then that third stage, the final stage, where everything's okay. You become the new identity. You've inputted the new habits. You have the new beliefs. You've rewired your brain, rewired your subconscious. That becomes the new you. So yes, you are an alchemist, and you do have the power to do alchemy and change your life. And this whole podcast is not about being perfect, but about gaining little specks of knowledge here and there that can help you on your journey of becoming the new identity that you want, that chooses the new identity, that embodies the highest version of yourself, the godlike version of yourself, that moves with intention and can take responsibility from where you are because you know that you have the power to create everything in your life, and your life is a direct reflection of your thoughts and your actions and everything that you do. And especially for those moms out there that are in the thick of it, like myself, we're in this together, we're doing this together. We can look at those sleepless nights and realize that they're teaching us patience, that the feeling of a loss of identity is helping us guide us to our purpose, that when we're in the slower seasons, it's because we're learning to receive, and that maybe we've been hustling too hard. And if I can be honest, out of all of the changes that I've done, the alchemist changes that I've done out doing alchemy with my identity as somebody that living with my mom, or when I shifted to living inside of the school bus and I built the school bus and was traveling and then I came back, like, and all of these identity shifts that I've had, probably becoming a mother was the hardest one and the most intense alchemy portals and journeys that is out there. So with that being said, whenever something hard or challenging is coming up in your life, try to figure out and ask yourself, why is this happening? What is this trying to teach you? Where is this trying to strengthen you? What part of you is being redefined? Where is your purpose lining up here? What lessons are you learning? Life is either happening from you or it's being worked by you. We know intentionally what we are creating in our external versus just having things fly out freely from us. I hope that is making sense, because we are alchemists and we recognize that. And in this podcast, we will always be learning and understanding and recognizing the power that we have with ourselves. So that is what it means to be an alchemist, babe. You do not escape your life, you transform your life. And you were never meant to stay the same. I love you all, and I will see you in the next episode.